Welcome to Happiness in the City. This is Barbara, and today I'd like to focus on a very important word, and that is attitude. I encourage all of us to connect to the heritage of beautiful language, beautiful logos. And one of the ways we can do this, if we have positive attitude to heritage of the ages. I am very fortunate because I grew up in a culture in Poland that is very deeply connected to heritage from Roman Empire, about 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years old now. And that heritage is very powerfully preserved in the language, in the Polish language, and the connection of Polish language to Latin, that was official language of the Roman Empire and of the Kingdom of Poland in its various shapes. And I'd like us to have understanding about the way attitude creates our ability to inherit what is good from the past. When the word attitude is becoming part of our discourse, we become aware about what we can control within ourselves. Attitude is actually a very empowering concept because it's one thing that cannot be imposed on us if we resist it. Attitude is not always expressed through language or through any outside external manifestation. Often it's what we have within us, within our whole being, as a certain capacity to be open to what comes to us from outside. So it is a very powerful thing that we have within us because it is capacity that we can shape internally and not fear invasion, not fear external ways to destroy it. It's simply a part of our makeup as human beings. Just as we have capacity to speak, we have capacity to have attitudes. And those of you who have gone through ordinary educational experience, kindergarten, schools, colleges, workplaces, you see in your own memories how many things were happening to you because of the right attitude. For instance, I had an attitude since I was 7 to always be respectful of my teachers, even if they were mean. Just to have that attitude of respect as if they were my grandmother. I had this little signaling system in me. I respect and love my grandmother. I'm going to respect and love all my teachers. And that attitude actually brought me a lot of wonderful things because my teachers in turn had good attitude towards me. Now, some people have bad attitude to their teachers, very demanding, very disrespectful, and then those teachers always have to be in a attitude of self-defense, even fear of some of the students. So the student who does that could achieve so much more with positive attitude. I encourage you to read about this topic. There's vast literature on that topic in psychology, in sociology, politics, medicine. You'd be surprised how many amazing philosophers have talked about it and have developed ideas about it. We need to have sophisticated understanding and knowledge about attitude because of what is happening in social media. The original attitude in social media was that we are creating marketplace of ideas. So you go to a marketplace and there are all kinds of people buying things and selling things and communicating and exchanging ideas. And so long as they are peaceful, everything is accepted. When you go to a library, you have a vast amount of books from diverse fields with diverse points of view and different regions, different countries, and people select different books as they choose and interact with those books in their development. So we know that the availability of libraries or educational opportunities that are free marketplaces of ideas help a student to develop internal attitude of tolerance. In other words, if those diverse points of view tolerate each other's presence in a place like library, I tolerate that knowledge within me. So attitude within us that is positive to knowledge and to diverse points of view is capacity within us that should be cultivated. Now, once we know different points of view, then there comes logos, reason, ability of judgment, understanding values, those higher level ways to discern what is good, what is noble, what is beautiful, what is good in the marketplace of ideas. In other words, the marketplace of ideas is like a platform that allows the expression of those ideas, but we still within us have capacity of attitude to discern their goodness for us, to discern what is appropriate for us and what is not. What can be appropriate for one nation may not be appropriate for another nation. And this is an attitude of tolerance that we need in social media. Because today there is attitude of fear. An attitude of fear is a negative emotion, and it creates focus on the so-called issues of safety. Now, safety is a concept that involves understanding something as dangerous. Now, when we have ideas, we need to interact with those ideas through reason. And reason, by the very nature of its faculty, has safety in it. There's safety within our capacity of language and safety within our capacity of reason. If they are healthy biologically, they have fullness of self-defense. Like when I speak to you, no one from outside has to watch my tongue. My tongue knows perfectly well how to heal itself and how to connect with words and how to connect with you through diverse means. So the concept of safety is one that comes from ways in which one group of people want to control another group of people through means to determine what can be seen, what can be heard, what can be communicated, with whom to have contact and with whom not to have contact. Now, I want to make those decisions myself because my attitude within me likes to be open to all kinds of ideas, and then I like, through my own reason, to make decisions what is right for me and what is not. I don't want another person standing next to me tell me, oh, Barbara, now you have to focus on thinking about reading this book on cooking. I'm perfectly capable of saying it to myself, Barbara, without anybody present to control me. I need to read this book on wedding cooking. So we have to have attitude of respect to our inner capacity to make decisions. I was trained in 3 ways at the University of Warsaw, and that was in pedagogy, which is teaching, for teaching certificate. I actually got it for applied linguistics and translatorics, which is a form of international communication. And all the courses I had to take for the teaching certificates were based on traditional knowledge of teaching. And every book was stressing that the teacher should not control the internal thinking of a student, but should be a guide. So of language and development of reason refers to our inner capacity, which has inner capability of discerning of what is healthy and what is not from within an individual. So an individual is not a city, and there is a lot of confusion about what an individual should do as he or she develops from early childhood to adulthood versus what is happening within the city. And we have to have an attitude of respect to differences between an individual and a group of individuals, city, country, nation. In other words, we have to develop ways of understanding how to approach any communication in social media from the point of view of learning. Now, that attitude would shift from matters of safety to matters of wisdom, love of wisdom, philosophia. And wisdom should be the guiding force to develop ways we measure interactions with individuals. At the highest level, individuals then influence what is happening within the city, and the city respects through different kind of wisdom. The wisdom of the city, the individual integrity, what we call right to liberty in American founding, and that right to liberty then creates free and happy individuals that interact with other people through curiosity, through love, loving connection, through respect of their minds, and through power that is in all those who interact with each other. That's when we don't have spirit of fear, because spirit of fear is always about punishment, penalties, penance, and that creates resentments and all kinds of distortions. So we have to come back in all social media discourses, all CEOs, all people who are involved in decision making, to ask God for spirit of wisdom. And once people have that attitude within, woken up and turned in a positive way towards wisdom, other things will become clearly discerned as things that should be subject to thinking about safety. Safety, in other words, should not have the center in any linguistic communication. Wisdom should. Philologia, love of language, love of words should. That should be the center. And that's how it has been for thousands of years, since we have the great teachings of Plato, Aristotle, and then all of the great teachers throughout the centuries, throughout the millennia. And I encourage you to come back with your attitudes towards that, and to stay away from promoting safety as a solution to diversity of ideas, diversity of all kinds of attitudes. Another thing is also, once that sophisticated understanding of the right attitude is developed, then social media can get involved in creating more of it, become influencers of the right attitude, of joy of learning, of joy of communication. And this joy of communication is something that can be developed, can be encouraged and developed. And joy of communication and learning has to come with respect of an individual's liberty within. It is a must. And it will not happen if what cannot be controlled, that is, that individual's attitude from within, is then morphed into fear, and then some people who just simply are in a development learning process are considered dangerous just because they said something ignorant. The right attitude should be, if they say something ignorant, they should be educated to do to learn more noble, more beautiful ways of thinking and expressing themselves. That's educational attitude of a guiding teacher. And that's what I would like us in social media to develop, so that kids from kindergarten all the way to adulthood learn to respect themselves internally, to love interacting with others by knowing that they are being loved as independent individuals without that avalanche of control. So we have to simply go back to foundations of the most beautiful history of wisdom. The biblical teaching is, for those who lack wisdom, we can ask God to give it to us. Wisdom is a spirit. And when we love wisdom, that love of wisdom and love of words solve most of the situations, and then we can deal with what is truly dangerous. There are some situations that really truly are dangerous when somebody tries to harm another person physically. But in communication, we should have attitude of sanctuary. In other words, there is nothing stupid that a person can say that cannot be connected with persuasion and guiding a person to better ways of communicating. When I look at my intellectual development from kindergarten till today, how many times I had to change my mind on things because I didn't have the right information. This is kind of funny, but I thought that reindeers were mythical, imaginary beings. And one day I saw National Geographic program and they are real. So did I stick to that wrong belief that they were imaginary? No, I realized they were real. And many people are like this. They have wrong ideas or they are ignorant about certain things. Doesn't mean they are bad or dangerous people. They simply need to be educated and shown better ways, more noble ways of communicating. So in closing, I'd like us to focus attention in all social media on the attitude of searching for what is good, what is beautiful, what is noble, what is uplifting, what is worth preserving, what is magnificent. And we cannot find it if we don't allow all kinds of things that are not good, that are not that beautiful to be out there, so that we learn discernment. And that creates an inner beauty in attitude that teaches our souls, who are the moving parts of our beings, to be free in motion, to move internally without fear. And that creates internal safety, and that internal safety has to come from within. So external safety can influence it, but it has to come from within. And that's how people develop internal peace in their hearts. Because most of the bad things that happen are because those bad things start within the heart. So we have to educate our hearts in beautiful, loving, and noble ways without fear. Thank you so much for listening to my remarks, and see you here next week for another edition of Happiness in the City.